and welcome to today's office hour. So, as we have mostly covered all the topics for the week. We went through built the contacts app, which was for the week. So I did, but no question was asked apart from I saw a question on safe area, but that was 4 days ago. Our previous classes. So question to take today. So yeah, I'm not sure. Our we're futures for next week. All right, I'm just going to share my screen so we can briefly go over an example of async await. We won't be making any API calls in this class. We're just going to go through the excuse me. We're just going to go through the basics. Although I know the material shared for that is actually quite clear, but let's just, for the sake of this session, let's just go through futures. And very briefly, we won't be spending too much time on it. Okay, so this is where we stopped in the last session. We built our very ugly contacts app. So let's, so today we'll just go through futures, right? Just go through it very briefly and then we end the session. All right. Sorry, please pardon my network. Okay. So let's open our contact screen. Today, we're just going to carry out a navigation from this screen to another screen, which would be our subscreen that shows us the details. So something we can do is we can go ahead to extend our contact model and maybe a field for, say, a bio or so let's just use a bio. We could add an address, right? We could just add the 2 fields for, and then we do the same for the user's address. We're just going to add the fields here. Let's not make it required. Let's just both, and then we'll make it nullable. So into our constants, and for each of the models, we're just going to for each, because we can't possibly put a unique bio for each of the addresses. Let me go copy the Yeah, let me go copy a line from lorem ipsum. Okay. So copy a short line, the address. But then we'll copy a longer line for the bio. And we're just going to copy this. And paste everywhere. So that should be fine. Then we also want to give each of them an ID. This is so that we'll be able to identify each of our contacts. Yeah, we want to be able to identify each contact. So when we click on it, we get the specific details for each tile that we get to click on. So just give, or we will need to add that field to our contact model, but let's just paste it everywhere first. We'll update it later. So make this 10, 9, right, then we're going to contact model and we'll add an ID int. So we have ID. We'll make it required because it's somewhat essential. So pass in the ID and that should fix that. So inside of our contact screen, I'm just going to add that here. Index ID. Yeah, we have to refresh that. Okay, then the next thing we want to do is to actually build out our subscreen. We don't want anything super fancy. We just, first, we would want to pass in this contact model as a parameter, because that's where we're going to get the details to display in the subscreen. Then we'll make this required. And we'll import the contact model. Then let's just display something passed in, maybe the ID first of all. When we eventually navigate to the screen. So contact dot, so let's just display the ID. All right, so inside of our contact screen, we want a case where whenever we click on each tile, it navigates us to the next screen. So wrap this in a widgets, clickable widgets, say gesture detector. Then when we tap, okay, yeah. When we tap, we want to navigate. Let's do push so that we can pop to this screen when we're done. So material page route, pass in the contexts, then we pass in the screen, and then we want to pass in the instance of the contact model for whichever tile that we click on. So when we save that, let's format this real quickly. Let's just do a restart to be safe. So when we click on this, remember we're just displaying the ID right now. So we're displaying the ID for each of the tiles that we get to click on, like so. Right, so let's build out that screen. Yeah. First, let's change this to white. Give this back potentially. Then we simply want to display the name, all the values that we passed into our contact model. So let's just copy one of these text widgets as well as the sized box. Take it here. Oh, we already had a text widget here, sorry. All right, so first we want to, let's paste this 4 times. First, we want to display the name. Next, we want to display the number. Next, we want to display the bio. Okay. And next, we want to display the address. Let's do this. So if you remember, in when we were creating when we were adding bio and address to the contact model, we made it nullable. So it's very possible that we can choose to create this. We can choose to create an instance of contact model and not pass in a bio or an address, right? But in such a situation, we don't want, if we were to use the exclamation point, this is somewhat assuring our compiler that the value that's coming from this variable is not going to be null. So in the case where we run our application and the value of bio is in fact null, it's going to break our application. I'm going to show you an example of when that can occur. So, or when that occurs rather. But here, adding this double bang is more like saying, let me just put that in a comment. If contact.address equals null, return an empty string, else return contacts.address. So this is the short form of these 2 lines. So we're pretty much checking if contact.address is null, then return this empty string, else return return the address, right? That's pretty much what this is about. So you can use it as what we call a null check. Okay. So first off, let's go back and let me show you an example of when this can potentially break your application. So inside of our constants, did I already close that? Yes, so inside of our constants, let's comment this out and now return a value for bio and address. Now, when we navigate, oops, hold on. Yeah, exactly. So when we navigate, we see that our R broke because it says null check operator used on a null value. So this exclamation, this bang is pretty much telling our compiler that most definitely, I assure you that this value is not going to be null. But in the case where it is null, it has the potential of breaking your application. So it's best you add a default value to a potentially null variable, or you make it required to ensure that that variable you're adding a bank to would most definitely not be null, right? So yeah, if I were to replace this with double question mark, you see that we no longer have the problem. And if I were to restart and then navigate, nothing. Oh, we're not seeing the values because our text color is white. So let's change that to black. And if we're to put a default value of just see that it displays our default string because bio in this case is empty. And if we were to change this to null as well with a default string, you see that it displays a default string and not this value because this is obviously null. And it has done the check, confirmed it's null, hence why it is returning the default value. But in the case where we're setting that there's a value, you see that what we passed in is what's been displayed and not the default value, right? Let's remove this center widget. And then we want to, what do we want to do? Yeah, we want to cross align our widgets to the starts. We can potentially wrap this in a padding and keep it symmetrical. So for the horizontal axis, let's just pass in 16, and vertical, let's pass in 30. Oh, we did it for everything. So we can as well remove this padding here. Yeah. Our app is still ugly, I know. Let's take out this spacer and replace it with a sized box. Give it a height of 32. Yeah. Oh my God, this thing is so ugly. Let's add some subtext like name. Do the same here. Number. So bio, register address, and can still do our null check inside here, in between our curly braces, and add whatever default value that we want. So, so remember we have not the number property inside of our contact model. It's required, hence why hence this value is most definitely never going to be null as long as you're calling the contact model. So adding this two question marks, checking if the value is null, you see that we're getting the warning that the left operand can't be null, so the right operand is never executed. Try removing the operator and the right operand. So pretty much telling you this value would never ever be null, so there's no need to check if it's going to be a null value. But if I were to change this to the address property, which we're setting, which is possible for it to be null, we don't see that warning anymore because this is accurate. I'm glad that happened, so you got to see that. Okay, let's just add some extra space. Okay, so yeah, so this is what happens when you don't have the value in it. It returns the default string. We can choose to add an if check within our widgets if we want to display this widget only when content address is not equal to null. So if we add that check, we see that this entire widget would disappear. And if we do the same for the text, for the bio, oops, copied the wrong thing. We do the same for the bio, that should go as well. And we won't see those widgets when value is null. So you could actually use an if check inside of your widget class, right? Okay, so we have gone through passing values. We just covered how to pass value in between screens. Yeah, we did that. And then we also covered slightly the null check operators. Let's briefly look at futures. Yeah, that's what was actually supposed to talk about today. I'm not sure why I decided to add this part, but yeah, it's all good. So like I said, we're not going to do any API call. Oh my God, I did it again. I didn't zoom in. I'm so sorry. Okay, so all right, so we're not going to be carrying out any API calls. We're just going to use something called future, and it helps us to carry out asynchronous operations. It has different methods inside of it. It has the any, the delayed, the do while, for each, wait. Let's just go through how to use the future that delayed. So this is pretty much informing our compiler that you should run whatever method we pass in here after a certain period of time. So it takes in a duration property, then it takes in a future, a function rather, that's to be completed after the duration elapses. So let's pass in a duration of 3 seconds. And then we can say we want this function to run only after 5 seconds. Now, if I click on each of this, see that it took 5 seconds before this function ran. So a future pretty much returns a value after it is complete, after the process is complete, as opposed to streams. Streams deliver your value or your data in chunks, but a future delivers a value after it is complete. Now, yeah, after it's complete. So after this 5 seconds, that's when we got the value in quotes inside of our inside of the function body, right? And that was to navigate to the subscreen. Now, if I were to add maybe a print statement here, print after the future. See, right now I'm actually quite uncertain what would happen, but okay, wait, hold on, let's run this. Okay, good. All right. So even though we even though we're waiting for this to happen, it doesn't stop the other parts of our function from running. You see that the print after the future did print before the future. It printed before we were navigated to the subscreen, right? So if we want a certain function to run first before we carry out some other actions, what we can do is we await it. So we see that this has this future that delayed is a future, right? You can only await a future, a function, a method that's a future, or in this, yeah, a method that's a future is that's the only thing that you can await. I can't come here and await a print method because it's just a void method and it cannot be, it's not asynchronous. So it says this expression has a type of void, so its value can be used and whatnot. So based on the type of the function, that determines whether we can carry out an asynchronous process with it. So with this future that delayed, we see that it has a type of future, even though it doesn't return a value, but it's still a type of future. So if I were to await this, and then go back and then go back and click either of this. You see that the print after the future didn't happen until after we completed the entire process. Without awaiting it, the print statement carried out its method, and then we were moved on to the next screen after the 5 seconds. It didn't wait for this. But in the case where we actually want to wait for this before we carry out, or wait for a future before we carry out other methods, it's expected that you await it. And then this entire block of code would run before every other thing that we expect of the function, right? Hence why that happened. So this is just a basic example of futures. In our next class, we're going to actually carry out an API call. I'm going to get hopefully hopefully I get a suitable design that would not only recreate, but if we have time, would also make an API call. And yeah, we'll make an API call in the class and see how futures work in that circumstance. But it's pretty much the same concept, it's pretty much the same idea, but we're just going to go through that in our very next session. So that said, I hope you do enjoy the materials for the final week, week 7, right? This is our final, this is going to be our final sessions, our final teaching in quotes sessions before the project phase. So I do hope you enjoy your materials for the week and you get to submit in time before the deadline. That said, do enjoy the rest of your day and see you guys in our next office hour. Bye-bye.